Welcome back to the official channel of Call of Duty Zombies forums, y'all. We're going to just do a quick overview of some intel that was received today. Some very exciting news, a teaser for the next Zombies map, which we've had a bit of intel as far back as the actual initial release of the game, leading us to believe that we know the location of upcoming Omega Group locations. That said, I have with me hashtag TAC, as
Hello.
usual. Thanks for joining me, man, and for overhauling all this stuff. There's a surprising lot of information to go over for a picture that is this small and blurry. So let's kind of jump into it and talk about what people suspect at this point. Kind of what the most common suspect is.
Sure. Where you want to start?
Tell us a bit about this Khe Sanh thing and what's led people to believe, because I know that was what I was referring to earlier, that this goes all the way back to the release of D-Machine or the release of Cold War to begin with, because I know we saw, and as Glitching Queen pointed out on her channel,
Yep.
that this was a location on one of the screens in Weaver's office. But tell us what kind of leads us to believe this further, as far as this upcoming map.
Yeah, the first thing that I noticed when I looked at this picture were all of the trees around this supposed map, and when I look at it, it's not just that there are any kinds of trees. They look particularly to me like tropical trees.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
I don't know per se if palm tree is the right word, but they have that kind of look to them where it's not, like a pine tree or like a classic. We'll get into the pine tree thing soon, but to me, that was the first thing I noticed was the tropical look of all the trees. So for me, that stuck out as and because they already have so many Vietnamese assets in the game, and the intel about Khe Sanh and Southeast Asia from Glitching Queen and just throughout the intel that we've gotten from D Machine, to me that is definitely what this points to.
Yeah, these trees. Just looking at them here, I mean, it's they're so sparse yet so broad. Like their profile is broad, and you see this very frond shape to them.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing
Exactly.
that we observed, some people were doing some color correction on them, and color correction brings out green in the trees. Now, how that color correction works, we're assuming that it's accurate, that it's based on, reasonable information within the image. But
Right. We don't think people are doing color correction and then like coloring green over the trees per se. Maybe they are, but it was interesting seeing the different color corrections people did, where now the trees actually do come out and look green. You get to see a little bit more definition on what we meant before in terms of them being, a broad profile, like you had said. So, right. So that indicates to us at least, and I guess I'll give some of the other evidence as well. With we've got the we've got an intel in which
I'm en route to meet a contact in Southeast Asia. He says he knows exactly what Omega Group is planning.
which is interesting. If you see in the top left corner of this image, this is the place I spoke of.
there's definitely
Um,
addressing Maxis here, so that is
right.
directly correlated.
So that seems potentially related. And then the KGB report about a site in Khe Sanh. So it seems like whether it's this DLC or not, a Khe Sanh map or a Vietnam map more broadly seems to be in the workings for us. And because of, like I said, the trees specifically give it away to me that that's where we're headed for this one.
We know, yeah, for sure. We know without a doubt that Omega Group is active in Khe Sanh, and so we can expect a tropical location. And so that the next thing then that has led to some controversy is the suggestion that this is not a tropical location. Those are not trees. What are we looking at here? What are they saying?
Well, so right, they definitely people believe they're not quite contesting that they're trees, but they don't see the tropical nature of them per se. They think that the left side on the mountain, they because of the black and white nature of the photo, at least this is my perception of it, and there's a couple bald patches that I look at as dirt. They think might be snow. Is just in terms of the picture. In a broader sense, there is a cipher about an initial survey at the Ural site, and there's some nefarious things going on there. Add on to it, of course, the obvious connection of there being a satellite. So people think that this is Yamantou, which people will know from Black Ops 1 campaign, Cold War campaign, multiplayer. It in terms of Nova, it holds a very large what's the word? It holds a very large piece of our imagination in Black Ops lore. So people think with the cipher in combination with them thinking that they see snow and potentially different kinds of trees. That's what we were referencing earlier with the pine trees. They think maybe,
Mhm.
it's not that there aren't trees up in the mountains, so they're not denying that they're trees per se. They just don't think that, they're not seeing the same kind of trees we are. So
I mean, to
that
their
seems
credit, that is definitely. I mean, that's definitely a pale slope on the left side from what we can see there. Of course, from what this does appear to be a satellite image, and that it was taken from that sort of angle. I can see the snow idea. Um, I think
yeah.
the strongest objection that I've got to that, and not to simply bring up objections for the sake of objections, but just for consideration, is that this picture was not taken by Requiem, as the cipher seems to suggest that that this site, if it exists, would indeed be confirmed by Requiem by satellite, or rather discovered by Requiem by satellite. Um,
Right. Yeah, let me read that part real quick. It says we must assume Requiem will detect it via satellite and deploy fire teams regardless of sovereign borders, and it being the Ural site. So the fact that whoever is taking this image, it's clearly a satellite shot, so that part's right, but somebody is passing this off to M. So it's not, to your point, it's not quite that Requiem is detecting it via satellite. It's, somebody's handing this off to Maxis, who presumably then gave it to Requiem.
Far more likely, this is like an Omega, if Omega has any space units or whatever, but at least a KGB satellite picture that's been basically leaked out to the CIA.
Right, that's certainly how it seems. Which reminds me of, isn't that how the tape was for D Machine, where they took it from the Lubyanka? Um,
Yeah.
so
So
that
basically,
might
this
be
is all inside information that's being leaked out. Um,
seemingly
we
seemingly
we may see satellite imagery of the Euro location. I mean, if that cipher ends up holding true, and these leads that Requiem has come across do indeed guide them to the next location, if that location is Ural, then we may finally see a CIA photograph. But the fact that all this information is being funneled to the CIA from the inside, uh, that indicates that this is actually original internal information that was not
right.
acquired independently.
And to that point, the fact that there's a satellite in a mountain on the left definitely can lend people to think, we are high up in the mountains, potentially. So I get where they're also coming from with that. When I look at the satellite, just an interesting fact, not for or against anything.
Sure.
It, to me, on the color corrected version especially, but when I go back and look at the original, it looks like this too. To me, the satellite looks heavily degraded. I don't know what that's gonna mean. I
It
think
looks
it
in rough
almost,
shape.
yeah, it looks to me like it's almost overgrown, with foliage. We'll see if that actually ends up being true or if it means anything or not. But just a quick observation. It definitely seems to be a satellite, though.
I mean,
Everyone seems to be on.
there's this hole. There appears to be a hole in the bottom section of it. Speaking of mountains, though, I'd like to just take that opportunity to transition to my own personal theory on this, just based on a little bit of information down in the bottom right corner of this image. If you, which I haven't seen anyone paying attention to, but the structure in the bottom right does appear to be brick. You have this very sort of rectangular shape, thick, what appears to be thick walls, and they don't seem to be of equal height. So they form what seem to be ruins. You can almost see some steps right below the word more, and then off to the left, further back, right below the middle of the map, is another ruined building. And if you actually no clip through Shangri-La, you can see buildings that are close to this configuration. Now, kind of going back to refer to classic zombies lore, we know that the Shangri-La location has been known to be a gateway to Argartha. So here we are in the Cold War season, and we know that these portals are opening throughout the world, kind of giving us opportunity to pass through to the Dark Ether, which I guess would be the closest thing that we have now to Agartha. And we've made arguments before that the location of the portals at the D Machina site basically are related to the incidences of the Tagner Toten and all that. If these locations were previously related to Agartha, I would say that there's a high likelihood that that energy could still be strong in those locations as well. So another following that logic, another location that could possibly be have that sort of energy would be the moon. So I maybe jumping too far, um, but I think that the architecture around here, along with the idea that's in Southeast Asia, because according to some early theories that are not in line with the Mars theory of Shangri-La, that
Mhm.
this location may actually be located in the Himalayas, which is also in Southeast Asia. Um, so that being said, that's about all we have for that.
And I,
Uh,
I want to give a quick honorable
oh,
mention
right.
to the idea. People throw around the idea that maybe this is related to Shi No Numa. We're not going to go too much into that. There's a couple different reasons for it. One, the fact we see Noct, maybe they're going to, retread some of World at War. The fact that I guess in one of the campaign missions, if you glitch out of the map, you see some Shi No Numa elements. I've heard that before. But so just throwing that out there, that's another potential popular one that people like to, maybe Shi No Numa gets. I'm gonna call it a retcon. I don't know if other people will call it a retcon, but gets retconned into Vietnam.
Because we
Um,
believed it was where previously?
Couple different. I mean, the main two were um, New Guinea and Manchuria are the two
That's right, Manchuria.
that I
That's what I
see a lot.
remembered.
Manchuria was mine, and then New Guinea was somebody else's. I think more people think New Guinea is it, but I've heard, I mean, maybe Vietnam now. Who knows? Also, butting in from the future here, as I was about to render the video on this intel that we've been discussing this whole time, a couple new ones came out from Treyarch, and they show a scientist quarters and a comms room, or two of them, and so that is adding fuel to the fire now that maybe it is a Shi No Numa remake of some kind, so keep your eyes out for that. So, but yeah, I think that basically wraps it up in terms of locations at least. Who do you? We've got M top left
Sure.
is getting a message from R. What what can you tell us about R, Hunter?
So I saw your objection to my tweet from the COD's official Twitter earlier, in which I had said that the most obvious conclusion is that R is Richtofen. And I know you and I are both hoping that Treyarch will do a little bit of expectation subversion here because, the whole community's buzzing with pictures of Richtofen now as a result of this.
Right.
And I said, let's see here, I said that it's fairly, basically last time M was for Maxis. You mean Samantha Maxis, her last initial. So it will be interesting to see if Treyarch subvert expectations this time and continue to withhold the fate of Eddie. What are your thoughts on that, and whether that would be possible at all, or likely at all?
Honestly, don't have I don't have any I agree that it is what they based on R it is what and going off of surnames, it is what they would likely want us to think.
Following that
Um,
trend, yeah.
right? So I mean, it has been speculated since before even Cold War came out that a Samantha versus Richtofen or I mean that seems to be the story, and I think where we'll probably end up.
I mean,
So I don't.
inevitably, I think he's going to be coming back. So I mean, whether it's now or later, I mean, we do know that if
Right.
Sam's here, then Eddie's got to be somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't want to throw my eggs in any particular basket here. I see why everyone thinks Richtofen. I'm hoping not, but I've got no. I mean, I don't know. There's so many other. I mean, there's memes of it's Reznov, it's Russman, it's Russell Radler. Uh,
You're
yeah, no.
right.
Uh, maybe M is Monty and R is Rashadow Man.
That's right. Yeah, I saw that one too.
Yeah,
True.
I think that was water. So who knows? People maybe I don't know. I'd love for an R to be a Reagan, but that's
Or
not.
I saw that one. Oh my word.
So
Hey, I,
who
I gotta
knows?
say, I
It's
got, I got to have some respect to all those people who are like all those campaign people throwing Reagan around.
right.
Um, now, the best one that we saw was mentioned by Glitching Queen. Apparently, it came from a guy by the name of Zeroy, who pointed out that, by no fault of some folks, because this is exclusive intel to PS4, there is an individual known as Redpole. This is his code name from the American perspective. He's a informant, a KGB informant by the name of Officer Kirill Ledov. Ledov, good, good. grief. I'm not
You're
gonna
killing
try.
it.
I killed it.
Yep,
Anyway,
yep.
he's a KGB officer who basically has been providing information specifically on Omega Group operations to the Americans. So what we have here is we have Sam saying that she has an operative on the inside who is informing her of Omega Group operations in Southeast Asia. All the pieces kind of go together, and his code name, that if you're communicating with the people who know you by this code name, you're going to sign off with it. And in this case, there's no question of surname or first name or anything like that.
Right.
His code name is Red Bull, so you're going to sign off R. I think that uh, shout out, like I said, to
Yeah, that's a good
Zeroy and
catch.
to Glitching Queen, because that. Yeah, I
That's
would say
that's
as
clever.
like as yeah, I mean it's as close as obvious as I said Richtofen would be as the answer here. I think that Red Bull is actually the more obvious conclusion. And
Sure, sure.
I mean, if we skip
Yeah,
over Richtofen, I hope that Treyarch will kind of reserve Richtofen and his fate for a grand finale, because the suspense of waiting to find out what has become of him throughout this entire season is going to kill everyone, and that sort of ending would honestly make for an excellent cliffhanger.
it's true. It's true. So we'll see if it does end up being Richtofen and how much they do or don't tease. I don't think they'll do the big reveal obviously now, but maybe they drop a little here there. Who knows? We just don't know. We just don't know. So before speculating any further, I'm sure we'll get even more teasers in the coming days because we've got 115 day coming up.
Eh?
Right? Exciting times. So I guess we can move a little bit into quickly here. We'll do some, I don't know, theories and finishing thoughts. The interesting thing that jumped out to me to start with was just calling it Omega Outpost 25.
Oh yeah.
I liked that. I liked just knowing there's 25. I liked it being, it wasn't like Omega Outpost like 2. Like
Right.
let's say D Machines 1, this is 2. Like I like, just making a big old leap, and 25. Their operations are huge. We could be going anywhere.
And as they've been
I
saying,
liked that.
there have been portals opening around the world. To see that this is location 25, you're kind of like, well, that I can see how that definitely would mean portals around the world. But this is number
Right.
25 out of how many? Who knows?
So I liked that part. And then on the right we get Omega Portal Chamber. This is where the portal is maintained to the Dark Ether. Um,
Oh yeah, we
yeah,
talked
I don't.
about the actual maintenance of this, and I love that you immediately cast back to the Casimir mechanism, because uh, we were discussing why a portal like this would be maintained. And if anyone's familiar with wormhole theory, uh, you may be you may know that the actual current scientific consensus on it is that if wormholes do exist, they're so unstable that they collapse the instant that they are created, and so we are unable to detect them. But Tack, as you pointed out, if you
Right.
have this is the theory is that if you have negative energy that can be maintained on both ends of the wormhole, that it actually can remain open. And that is, can you explain to us further what its relationship to the Casimir mechanism is?
Right, and so that's the idea. So this is how the Gersh device worked, or at least the idea of how the Gersh device worked in Ascension, for example, was it was creating a Casimir effect, and the negative energy around the Gersh device was able to keep it open long enough for you to go through and through the wormhole. So
So
that's
it's
in
interesting that's the
zombies.
Gersh device, because that's Soviet technology right there too. And I would say that's the most similar sort of graphic we've had to the current dark ether portals of today. Uh, just
Yeah,
that
so
everything here kind of points to this sort of Casimir mechanism and wormhole theory.
right, so that might be related. We'll see. I know there's a lot of there was a Thor had a comment that I'm now forgetting about why these have to be maintained, so to speak, and the ones in D Machine just kind of exist and like floated there, if I remember his comments correctly. So I don't know. I'm interested to see what more we learn about the nature of the Dark Ether, how the portals work, why they may or may not be different this map.
I would
I'm excited to see.
I would argue that probably D Machina was probably trying to contain the portals, but as you know, the collider itself was ruptured, and so that's probably why you have the portals moving all throughout the map. Any sort of containment effort that was being made. you probably don't have the stability that you're looking for. And so you have these portals. They're probably opening and remaining stable longer than a wormhole would. But I'm starting to wax eloquent here. That's
Right.
basically the theory, is that these are wormholes and that they open,
Sure.
they collapse, and that they will need maintenance if you want to keep them open for an extended duration of time.
Sure. All right, last thing, and we're going to wrap up here. I just now thought of this. What do you think of just looking at it from a gameplay, a map perspective? Some people have commented they think it looks pretty small. Um,
Oh, I've
it's, you
got a
know,
funny one
it's
here for you, Tac.
hard to
So you
tell
remember?
what it. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, but you remember the guy who in our Q&A episodes asked us when we were going to expand uh, Ascension for 6 players?
Yes, I do.
Well, one of the theories about this map is that it's literally the same layout as Ascension, except that it's expanded off to beyond the wall where you throw the Gersh device and the Easter egg. So,
I
looks like
did
we
see
did
that.
it. We did it.
Right, we did it.
The map
We
is expanded. There you go, buddy.
right.
You got your
Yep.
request.
You just don't get 6 people. Maybe
Exactly.
next game. Yeah, maybe next game. But no, it looks. Maybe there's an underground area like D Machine we don't know about. Maybe just this picture doesn't do it justice, and it's actually much bigger than we think. Hard to say. Hard to
In
say,
response to the idea that it could be Ascension, or that it's the same layout or whatever, I would say that that would probably be a reasonable place to start in Cold War. D Machina was a very open map, very wide. I think very accommodating to the new mechanics and the new AI and that sort of thing. So to sort of model these maps in the same way as Ascension was modeled, which was also very open and very friendly to training. I can see how you would basically start from the ground up, but you could say, hey, let's just design it with the same sort of floor plan as Ascension, because hey, that worked. You could get around, you can move around. Let's kind of take that as a base concept and work from there. But just a thought.
it's tough because I mean I don't. There's been. It's so tough for me to look at any overhead and see something specific. Like
Yeah.
someone in the Discord was like this. I mean, this almost looks like Nuketown if you wanted to make the argument. With like the two buses in the middle,
Right.
so to speak. Like, so I don't know. It's so hard for me to tell what these things look like from overhead. But
And for
yeah,
real, to wrap up, I mean, shout out to all the people in the community who keep these sort of conversations alive on these days. This community is pretty quiet these days. Not as much, not as poppin' as it used to be, in 8 years ago or so. And so, to see people really diving in and tearing these things apart and trying to find meaning, y'all are absolutely killing it. So keep it
yeah,
up.
that's what
And
to your point originally. Yeah, it was very fun to. Just out of a small picture like this, just how much discussion could be generated. It felt fun to take part in it. So, but yeah, I mean, unless you have any more closing thoughts, that's all I've got on this.
that should be it. So thanks so much for tuning in for this one, folks. And we'll see y'all on 115 Day, if not sooner. We've got some more stuff in the works. And thanks for being patient with us over the holiday season, but we'll be seeing y'all soon. NaBrZHunter, out.
Goodbye.